Welcome to a new test and teardown video. This time it's a grid dip meter, and I think this one is a do-it-yourself kind of solution. I kind of like the top here is transparent, but this one is one of the better ones. It is really well built. Look how nice and pretty it is. It looks like the case is brass, so they bend it and solder it or welded it or something like that. It looks almost too professional to be a DIY, but maybe we can find out if we open this one and figure this out. So, what is a grid dip meter? It's actually quite simple the way that it works. But I don't have here the inductor or the coil. So you put different coils for different frequencies up here. And then there is, as you can see here, a little variable capacitor. And this is coupled to a scale. And of course you have normally a frequency readout here, but this scale you just look up in a book or some tables with this and this inductor, and the number is this and this. Then the resonant frequency can be calculated or somehow read out from this table. And this is the idea is that you take this inductor you have here and you hold this towards another circuit that you're building. It can be a power amplifier or something like that in the tuned circuits of that. And this way you can figure out if the other inductor and capacitor and tuned circuit is at the correct frequency you want to operate at. And you can imagine back in the 50s or probably even earlier, you didn't have network analyzers, spectrum analyzers, frequency generators, and all sorts of fancy smancy test equipment while you're building transmitters and receivers. So you need a really simple way to figure out if there is correct resonance in the circuit you're building. This is really impressive. If this is a DIY, look at that case. How beautiful is that made? Yes, and I do believe this is brass and bent and folded like that and then soldered. All these pieces of brass here. I mean, somebody really put some effort into doing this beautiful. And unfortunately, they didn't write even names or numbers or years or anything like that. Often you find some sort of information in old DIY, but not in this case. And that is a really a big shame, because it is really beautiful. So let's look a little bit at the circuit. You can see some fungus or some corrosion. On this, I think this is probably a nickel alloy or nickel coated something. This is not so good. So this is the mains transformer. So mains is always applied to the transformer. And this means the filament, I think one of these wires, but how is... Okay, so here we go. Now there's an explanation. It goes to ground, and that is why we have probably that one, the other end of the filament, going to the tube all the time. That cannot be, because that is in the kilo ohm range. So this has to be, okay, it's that one. They probably just flippity flips. So here is the filament, obviously, right? And also note the tube is an EC81. So there's a single triode in this EC81 tube. And they use, of course, very little filament current as well. So that is why it works pretty good with this tiny little transformer. I can read here 6.3 volts, 0.2 amps. So that is plenty for this little tube. The high voltage is 150, 0, 150, a center tapped voltage. And also this selenium diode here, it looks like a double diode. You can see there's one wire going to one end, and then there's a center. I don't know if we can see this, but there is a little center pin in the middle, and then there's another end of the other piece of diodes right there. So see that wire? So the center tap goes to the capacitor. So this is the high voltage capacitor, and this high voltage goes to this switch. So what this is not the mains, but this is on off of the high voltage. And then high voltage goes to this one, I guess, to the anode circuit, and there's probably a, you see there's another little capacitor right there for a frequency adjustment, and then there is a ground, and then there's a feedback here, and this is how you have a little oscillator circuit where the inductor is of course external. So the peak, so you adjust for example half of the peak, and then you go to the other circuit coupled to that. Now you have a coupling, and then you can adjust the other circuit for another dip, and that is when you have reached the same frequency as this one. And then there's a funny thing about the output to the meter, because the meter, I think there's a side that goes to ground via the potentiometer, so variable readout for the meter. But there's supposed to be a rectifier, I bet, inside this meter, because see, we have a capacitor, and that goes to the output, so you can put in an external meter if you want to. So that we have to have a rectifier in here, otherwise it's not going to make a lot of sense this way, is it? Yeah, I don't know if I should just plug this in or what. I should probably just double check this capacitor or those diodes, because we're going to have a big problem with something like that. Or just make a little inductor as well and see if there's any oscillations and fancy things. It could be pretty cool if this one could work again. It is, as you can see, very, very old. I don't have any date code on the transformer other than this type number. I don't know if this makes any sense at all when it comes to how old this is. Sometimes you can also find a little date code on the capacitor. This is some funny code. I really don't know how to translate this into a proper year code or something like that. Yeah, I better just take out this capacitor. Now we know exactly how this is, the circuit is connected. This is some nasty stuff. Ugh. 16 and 16, and they just put them in parallel, and they say 350 volts. So yeah, I should easily be able to go and pick up some capacitors. And if anybody knows how to translate this into something, I don't know. So the capacitor actually measures quite alright when it comes to its capacitance. However, I just let it sit here for quite a while, and we got a nasty level of leakage, well, 300 kilo ohms. So it will actually use a little bit of power. Let's try and take another one and see. Yeah, smaller one, but anyway, let's try and see what that measures. So no big surprise, it measures as open circuit, because the leakage is just that low, and this is how it's supposed to be. And you can of course also with these meters go into capacitance, and it says 22, and it is more or less what it's written here, so that is good. So let's see what happens here. So here is what we'll do. I set up a little inductor, just 7 windings. I mean, that big. It's not super important what I've done here. So the point is that I have another one right here as a little pickup for my oscilloscope. so we can see the frequency, and that is important. The point is, here is the frequency, and this is the level on the meter. Okay, so you need to mind the meter here, and then I'll just say the frequency on the scope. Let's see if we can get everything up and running here like that. And we can see the meter goes up like that, and the frequency says 16 megahertz. Let's try and dial this a little bit and see. See, this is the frequency. So I just put this in the middle. Let's just put it exactly for 16. This way it's easier for us to remember what we're doing. Also, this meter here, of course, this is just the level. And since this is just connected to the scope, so it should not load it too much, but it is actually, see, it is loading, as we see here on the meter. So 16 megahertz, and now it gets a little bit funny. Let's see if I can get this camera here a little bit closer. So this is the readout, and so I just took 2 little test leads and made just 2 windings and a little variable capacitor here. So look at that. So let's imagine I'm building something like a transmitter or something, and I want to know what is the resonance frequency of this circuit here. And I want it to be 16 megahertz as this oscillator is running now, right? So with this one mounted like that, I have a capacitor connected to this 2 windings, and by turning, look at that. Ooh, that's a super high Q. If I put it exactly, you need to be, yeah. There's a crazy high Q in this thing. Look at that. And depending on the sensitivity you want, you can adjust this one. Roll it down like that. And then you get maybe a better readout, I don't know. And the distance here is of course the coupling, and then you can poke around with the peak. And now I have tuned this circuit here for 16 megahertz. So that is what a grid dip meter is, and how it's used, and what it's all about. And I thought that was pretty cool and interesting. And that is why I think we can just say thank you very much for watching so far. And I hope you had a little bit of fun, and we learned something about old technology and how old DIY would have been in the 1950s or something like that. Yeah, about the age. Oh yes, I better turn off the mains again. The back side of this tube, there is stamped a 454. So I believe it is 1954. And it all add up with the technology that we can find here, the Selenium rectifier and everything else like that, and also the build quality and the little red marking on all the solderings and all the screws and stuff like that. This is just a classic of that time anyway. So now I want to say thank you very much for watching. Please come again soon. Bye bye.